And our next speaker is Linda Pierce. Pierce is a principal with NCE, Engineering and Environmental Services. Prior to this, Linda was a senior engineer at Applied Pavement Technology, and she was also the state pavement engineer at Washington State DOT, where she worked for 20 years. Linda is active in TRB and chairs the Committee on Pavement Management Systems.
All right, so I want to spend a few moments talking about Dowel Bar Retrofit. Kurt showed my exciting slides, at least the pictures of some of the distress that we're looking to address with Dowel Bar Retrofit. So certainly you've got some pumping, you've got some faulting. These are our key applications of Dowel Bar Retrofit. And you know, if you've got a lot of slab cracking, it's probably not something you want to, but if you've got a lot of slab cracking, Dowel Bar Retrofit might be something you don't want to do. And certainly there's ways to address some of that. You know, again, if it's extensive, there might be other options that you want to go through. So this is just the classic schematic of a Dowel Bar Retrofit from the Washington State DOT. Really just showing the dowel bar within a slot. There's dimensions, there's requirements, there's placement of the dowel, requirements for the end caps and for the support chairs, backfill material. All this information, is kind of captured here on this one schematic. But just to give you an overall sense of what this is, the process that's involved in placing the dowel bar at the joint. So as far as project selection goes, you really do want to stay away from pavements that are subjected to alkali silica, ACR reactivity, any type of decracking. Again, you really do need to have a sound pavement structure for Dowel Bar Retrofit to be effective. So kind of like I mentioned earlier, you do want structural integrity. So you really are not Dowel Bar retrofitting a shattered slab. It really won't give you the life that you expect. You know, at least in the process, this is kind of reported, by others as well. But you're Dowel Bar retrofit is going to be successful and cost effective if your load transfer efficiency is less than 60%, if your faulting is less than a half an inch, and if you have about 10% or less slabs with multiple cracks, to illustrate just kind of the condition that you're looking for with Dowel Bar Retrofit. There's a number of materials involved, and as you'll see in the coming photos, and you're probably aware, Dowel Bar Retrofit is a very construction heavy. It takes a lot of labor. It's nothing, they've automated a lot of it, but there still is quite a bit of bending and stooping, I would have to say, in getting the dowel bars set into the slots. So as I noted, you got to worry about the dowel bars. You got to worry about the end caps that go on the dowel bars to allow expansion. Also the support chairs to make sure that the dowel bar is not sitting at the bottom of the slot, because you got to make sure you get material all the way around that bar. The foam core insert is absolutely necessary to reestablish that joint, and then there's bond breaker and the caulking that needs to go back in around the joint and or crack, so you can Dowel Bar Retrofit a crack as well, a transverse crack. The backfill material, there's again a lot of information available related to this the backfill. There's compressive strength requirements, looking at scaling, shrinkage, durability factors, as well as a bond strength, because again, you want to make sure that the backfill material adheres to the existing concrete, and you make all the compressive strength requirements, obviously opening to traffic and that type of information. All right, the Dowel Bar layout, a lot of 2 bars, 3 bars per wheel path, 4 bars per wheel path have all been tried. The classic really is the 3 bars, 18-inch bars spaced 12 inches apart. Then you have to offset them from center line, offset them from the lane edge. As this picture is, the direction of traffic is going down the page to kind of give you that perspective a little bit better. Pretty typical orientation. Typically are Dowel Bar retrofitting the far right lane, but then again, if you have multiple lanes of traffic, states have also Dowel Bar retrofitted. I don't know that I've seen them Dowel Bar retrofit all lanes, like on a 4-lane facility or an 8-lane facility, but certainly a lot of times you see the right 2 lanes. Again, where the truck traffic is where you're putting the Dowel Bar retrofit. Slot creation kind of started out with an experimental device that was modified to allow slot cutting, and it has certainly advanced in the years. So it is a machine. You can either have them cut all at once, cutting all 6 slots, all 8 slots, depending, or 4 slots, depending on how many you have per wheel path, or they do have the individual units that'll shut 2, 3 to 4 slots at a time. The contractors have come out with a single blade, a saw cut blade, and while it's effective, it's not very efficient. You got to start worrying about how well they can keep the slots parallel and lined up. It's something, again, it's usually a specialty equipment that comes in and creates those slots. One thing that's really key, and I'll show you a nice picture here in a bit, is that the slots do need to be parallel to the center line, and don't worry about the skew. It's the center line direction, not perpendicular to the joint, that's important when you have the skewed joints. All right, here's one of the labor-intensive operations with Dowel Bar Retrofit is once the slot has been cut, you now have to remove the concrete within that slot. This is absolutely captured on Washington DOT project up on I-90. And it really is, again, labor intensive. So the person on the far left actually is just got a bar with a little bit of a flange on the end that they have found that if they just give it a little bit of pressure, you can actually break the concrete within the slot. And that helps a lot with the removal process. Next is jackhammering. And again, it was always fun to see the very first Dowel Bar Retrofit, at least in Washington State. A lot of single jackhammers, and so it was time consuming. And so the contractor here was able to generate a process where they could run multiple jackhammers off of a compressor and really helped to speed the process. And then, of course, once you've broken the slot, you've jackhammered it. Now you've got to pick the mess up, so to speak. And so this is really mostly just a broom operation. Thankfully, it's not a person sitting there picking up the pieces, that they actually can use the broom, and it does pick up quite well. Probably one of the more important processes of Dowel Bar Retrofit is the slot cleaning. So it is a combination of sandblasting, air blasting, and then making sure that you do have a clean slot. Again, I'll do a little bit of picture here to show you on the slot cleaning, its importance and what it actually is, the before and after that's important. Again, as you're going through this process, you really want to make sure that you keep the area clean. So in the sandblasting, you can kind of see this zone around the slots to keep it, make sure that the material that you're coming in doesn't get a lot of the dust from the cleaning process is really cleared from the roadway surface, and you've got a nice thing to build from. Other labor intensive is actually being able to apply the sealant into the joint or crack. And what's really important here is making sure that you're filling the crack or joint and not the surrounding sides of the slot. Again, keeping that nice and narrow as possible helps to make sure that when you bring the pour back material in, it's not being adhered to the caulking material, and is actually being adhered to the side of the slot. The dowel bar placement, again, is key. It is a matter of getting the bars centered over the joint or crack as best as you can, and then making sure, again, that you see in this upper right-hand picture that the foam core insert is actually aligned with the joint. Again, that's really key. On this bottom right picture is a little bit more of a blow-up of that, and making sure that alignment is nice and clean. The backfill material, again, what's important here is to not dump the material directly into the slot. The weight of the material on the dowel bar will move that dowel bar, and so it is recommended that it is dropped on either side of the slots, and then they use the shovel or some type of a process to shovel the material into the slot itself. I've not. There's been some coring, and I don't know that dowel bar movement has been an issue when you do this. At least nobody that I'm aware of has said, "Oh my gosh, this doesn't work." Dropping it directly into the slot does cause a problem, but this method appears to have worked quite well. Finishing the patching material, the great thing is Washington State, the very first Dowel Bar Retrofit job we had, they brought in a concrete finisher, made that finish nice and smooth, came back through, did the diamond grinding, and then within a matter of, months maybe, all the paste that was in the nice fine finish actually was removed because of the studded tire damage that we see in Washington State. And so very, very quickly, the DOT said, hey, you know what, don't overfinish, get it so that you at least got consolidation. Diamond grinding process comes through and it'll clean it up nicely. And so the picture you see on the left is pretty much the finishing that needs to happen. Just again, not to make it perfect smooth, but just to get it enough to causing the diamond grinder to actually come through and move excessive material. Applying the curing compound, again, this was a battle at first. Didn't want to do it, and it actually is something that needs to happen. Again, it's concrete, and so we want to make sure that the curing compound is applied correctly. Reestablishing the joint and crack. Again, the crack's a little bit more difficult because you got to be able to follow that. But the good thing is you just have to reestablish the joint on top of the slot. Again, you're not, hopefully not slopping too much material around the concrete that you're filling that joint in other areas. But so as you can see, this person here is really just saw cutting right at the joint itself. Again, this was a kind of a bone of contention with the contractors. They didn't want to do it, and it really is important that the joint is reestablished. And I'll show you a couple pictures here in a minute that shows why that's important. The final steps certainly are diamond grinding, and so I won't take the show away from John Roberts. And then, as Kurt mentioned, joint sealing is the one of the final steps that happens before the process is done. All right, so what I want to do now is spend a little bit of time talking about the key factors for success. As I noted, project selection is key. You don't want to, you want to sound concrete. You don't want a lot of transverse, longitudinal corner breaks. Again, you're trying to probably save a slab that should just be replaced in whole. Cleaning the dowel bar slots is probably what we have found is one of the really key processes. A lot of issues have occurred because of a lack of cleaning. Dowel bar assembly is important, and its placement is important. Again, it's probably not as critical as one would originally believe, but certainly centered over the slot at mid depth of the slab are important things. And obviously, there's tolerances with those as well, but it's certainly within reason of brand new dowel bar placement. As you have with Dowel Bar Retrofit. The use of appropriate backfill material. There was a number of, again, agencies that we saw failure in that backfill material. And so it is making sure that it meets those requirements to adhere to the sides, opening to traffic type of information. And then placing and curing the material, and certainly consolidation is the big key here. You really don't want a lot of voids around your dowel bar. That just allows for excessive movement and failure of the slot. All right, so just some things to watch for. Here's a misaligned insert, so you can see the joint is a skewed joint. However, the insert appears to be a little bit more on the perpendicular to the sides of the slot, and so that causes a problem. You got a lot of spalling that can occur between that location. When the angle is too great on the jackhammer, and so it really needs to be less than a 45. This person's got it almost at 90. Problem here is that you will punch through, or you have a high potential to punch through the bottom of the slot. Washington State again saw a lot of this, and it really resulted in a 45, the classic concrete 45-degree crack off the end of the slots that was able to say, hey, that was the problem on that one project. Here's one, and fortunately, the contractor only sawed a couple of joints before somebody said, hey, you're doing perpendicular to the joint, but you need to be parallel to the direction of traffic. So they were able to stop that, but certainly this is something that was a no-no. Unfortunately, like I said, they didn't catch it after they saw cut it, and they didn't really see it until somebody came through and cleared the slots. But obviously, a panel replacement was due for this location here. This is just the core of the concrete right over the Dowel Bar Retrofit, and you can kind of see this is where we've got some poor consolidation around the bar, and did lead to failure of the dowel bar slot itself, obviously not the bar. The one big thing concerning the condition of the existing concrete, if you have a longitudinal crack, it's not a major issue. However, do not put the Dowel Bar Retrofit directly over the longitudinal crack. So if you can slide the cutting operation so that it actually misses that longitudinal crack, you get much better performance. So here's what my key is to really watch for is when you come through and you do the dowel bar, once after you've done the slot cutting, you've done the removal, you do have a lot of paste that's stuck to the side of the slot, and you really want the picture on the left to look like the picture on the right when you're done doing your cleaning. If you can go, it's the classic, if you can go in with a white glove and swipe your hand across the cleaned slot and you have residue on your hand, it is not clean enough. It really needs to be very, very clean. Again, a lot of failures, a lot of issues with patching material when that surface is not clean. So this is just a slide looking at, again, experience in Washington State. Dowel Bar Retrofit is expected to extend performance of the concrete by at least 10 to 15 years. And certainly Washington has numerous projects that are pushing 25, pushing probably 30 years. We're going to push 30 years. And certainly this is just one, I-5 in Olympia. Washington was able to get onto this pavement when the faulting was less than 1/8 of an inch. Came through, Dowel Bar retrofitted it, and to be honest, and I believe this pavement is still performing quite well. I think this picture I got from Jeff Olmeyer, and I think this picture was taken maybe in 2019. Still in very good condition. All right, back to you, Kim.
The preceding was produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation. More information can be found on the web at pavementpreservation.org. Additional support provided by Michigan State University.